You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode of Chiro Hustle is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Chiropractic Unity, Pure Chiro Notes, and the Chiro Dex app. Let's hustle.
All right, guys, welcome to episode number 12 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. We have a very special guest on the show today, and here's Jim Chester to tell you all about him.
Well, Dr. Charlie Francis is somebody that you guys are going to want to listen to. He can teach you how to be successful in practice, and with the weight loss program that he's developed, I think he's going to give you guys some information that might help you make more money.
So, Charlie, why don't you tell us your chiropractic story and what influenced you to become a doctor?
My chiropractic story isn't a real big wow, but I was in undergrad, and one of my roommates at the time, his uncle was a chiropractor, and his dad put in computer systems for chiropractic, and quite frankly, I had no vision of my life. I was just basically partying through college for my first year or two, and then something struck me with chiropractic, and so I was very interested because I was asking my roommate, his name's Jay, a little bit more about chiropractic. I went to visit some offices, and then I started to design my education towards chiropractic. But the real kicker, and this is just being real, is I was chasing a girl. So she moved down to Georgia for graduate work, and so part of that journey was going to school in Atlanta, which was chiropractic, and she happens to be my wife today, so it was a good journey and good chase. But that's why I ended up at chiropractic school, bottom line. So talking about it choosing you, I didn't choose it, it chose me.
So you're saying I still have a chance if I keep on finding the right one and I go to find somebody that's going to chiropractic school?
Yeah, absolutely. I was laughing at the other day, like how many of us guys, we end up doing something in our life for a lady, and end up in these different positions. Mine happened to be a blessing two ways. I got married to a most beautiful woman, but also too found, my life passion in chiropractic and helping people get healthy.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So what would you say makes you unique in the chiropractic world?
In certain ways, I don't think I'm so unique. I think I'm like the average guy. However, I think that one of the things that in the last just few years, that has separated me was almost getting out of our profession for a period of time, because we have such a great and powerful mission, but we talk the same language to each other, and we start to believe our own dogma, and even if it sounds great to us, it may not sound great to others. And so I'm not suggesting dilute the truth, but the fact is sometimes we need people to call us out and say, you know what, that's not a great way to share something. That's actually something that's off base, or someone to really be honest with us, because we have a thing called blind spots. And so what I did was I got into different circles of people that had no connection to chiropractic, and started, really building a health business model that allowed us to reach the masses, which is the ultimate goal of how do you get people to heal from the inside out. And so because of that, that's where I think I've separated. And because of that, I'm able to stay congruent to myself, not compromise what I consider the principle of healing, and then grow an insane business and have the back end, have the freedom, have the autonomy. Like, I love to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, and how I want to do it. And I do it from a really genuine place. But the fact is, I think most people crave that freedom. And for me, I suppressed it because I was following so many other people trying to be, quote unquote, successful. And in that was my lack of success. So even though on paper I was successful, we had a great practice, financially successful, changed a lot of lives. I mean, I still have friends that were once patients in the things, but the separator was actually creating a replicatable business model that allowed me to have it all. Time with my family, fitness, finances, I can travel. It's not even about the travel. It's really about the flexibility. And I don't want to sound like I'm rambling, but it was a shift of the way I saw myself. And I think a lot of doctors are stuck because we don't see another way to have it without either compromising the principle of healing and health and chiropractic, or sometimes we're so taught to devalue things, or that we get into groups of people that tell us, hey, this is how it's supposed to be, and that's what we buy. And I'm not saying they're wrong, it just may not be right for everybody.
Yeah, it's amazing what travel can do for a person to help change their perspective and refresh the way they see things. It's like George Harrison says, the farther you travel, the less you know.
Amen. I agree. You kind of realize, like, shit, I don't know what I think I know. And it kind of shifts things up, you know. Another thing, too, that shook my world was that, you know, here I am, you know, we chose not to vaccinate our children. And my daughter, at the age of 6, developed cancer. So eating organically, we don't have the shit in the diet, you know, and going through that journey. She's healthy today. She's turning 13 in about a week or so.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, me too, man. More than I can even express in words. But going through that, you question, you know, she's subluxation free, adjusted, and eating clean. Like, what could be that, right? Mm-hmm. And just being hung on it. Like, if she wasn't, you know, I could see our professor saying, was she subluxated, or she's, you know, vaccinated, or what those things? And you would say, no, right? Right. So sometimes there are things outside our spectrum that we just don't fully understand. Instead of coming from a place that we know it all, like we're saying, that I think we know a lot and we understand a lot, but also to allow that flexibility of growth and not getting stuck.
Absolutely. It's important to not get stuck in anything. So, do you have a mantra or a quote that you live by, whether it's yours or someone else's? Do you have, like, words of wisdom that you kind of tell yourself every day?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few. I mean, you know, one is that whatever you don't let your emotions dictate your outcomes. Because so often, I'm going to speak for myself, but I think a lot of people relate to that, is that, you know, the high highs don't last forever, and the shittiest of times, the lowest of lows don't last forever. And just to know that they're really just emotions, even fear, you know, it passes. And to actually continue forward on your journey, whether you're feeling amazing or not. And so often I feel like people get caught in it. So it's not like a mantra. I don't allow my circumstances to dictate all the outcomes. I just choose to be happy and whole regardless, even if I don't feel that way all the time. Because situations don't always warrant that, but it doesn't mean it has to dictate how I am.
That's really smart. That actually ties into something I learned over Mile High this weekend. Maybe Jim can help me out with this. I don't remember who said it, but someone said that your psychology dictates your biology.
I think
you know, 100% true.
I think,
you know,
that
if you don't change the way you think, it's impossible to change the way you act. Because what's actually, they talk about we talk about the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. But really, what is insanity is being incongruent with the person you think you are. So, to give a loose example, if a child thought they were bad, what does a bad child do? Bad things, right?
Yeah.
So that bad child has to fulfill whom he or she believes he is. It's incongruent, or they're truly insane. And it doesn't necessarily define the child. The child is most likely not a bad kid, but if they believe they're bad, their only thing to remain sane would be to fulfill whom they believe they are. And so often, that's how we are. We fulfill whom we believe we are. You know, like we say we're only a chiropractor, you know, and I'm not saying only in a negative way. My mentor challenged me. I have a few mentors, and I feel very blessed to have these people in my life. But when I was going through the change, because I had gotten out of chiropractic for a while, and emotionally it was a huge struggle because I believed it was my calling. I was blessed to do this. How dare I question or desire more when I already have more than enough? I'm not talking monetarily. Like, my life was great, you know, but there was something in me that desired more. And I was like, this shift, I'm like, am I just kind of spitting in the face of God, so to speak, of like walking away or from this right now? And he said to me, he goes, let me ask you this question. He goes, have the greatest things you've done for people and change and transform their lives, has it been something besides even an adjustment? And he goes, think about that. Like, start to go through all the people that you've had in your practice, and was it the adjustment that impacted their life, or maybe it was something you did outside of chiropractic, something you said to them, kind words that transformed them. And I literally took a stock and I wrote down a list of all these people I could think about, and I can tell you probably 8 out of 10 of those people were something outside of chiropractic. Although I know the adjustment healed them, the thing that was that made the tipping point for them, the thing that transformed them, was something outside the physical adjustment. And then his question to me was, can you still transform lives and help people heal even if you don't adjust them? And for me, that was like a burden of relief. And even doing what I'm doing today, even though I don't physically adjust people like I used to, I'm still able to see those life miracles. And that's all I ever wanted. And so I'm able to fulfill it. So then just by defining myself strictly as a chiropractor was limiting my ability to serve people.
You know, I get that. So, like, it's such a deep understanding when it comes from being somebody that is basically positioned to be on a certain track of life. Let's just use, like, for example, a actor, and to say that all your career is supposed to be for the rest of your life is just an actor. But then they're like, well, no, I can sing too, and I'm really talented at singing. And no, you know what? I kind of want to write a book too on all my experiences of life, and I think that that's really like important for people to know about who I am. So I want to do like a biography, and you know what? I'm crushing Twitter, I'm crushing social media, so I want to do that stuff too. So to tell somebody that this is your only track, and to have that kind of like emotional like pull that says you're only supposed to do so much with your chiropractic degree, I think that that's kind of, you know, a nearsighted approach. And as I've gotten to chat with you and talk to you about the different levels of influence that you feel that you've been able to, you know, accomplish when it comes to being a chiropractor and stepping away and looking at it from an aerial perspective and saying, how do I still fit into this whole profession, and what can I do best to serve humanity?
That's exactly it, you know, and that's where I still believe I'm finding my way in a sense, where because things change so fast, I'm like, realize is this still it? Is there more to come? I believe there's always more. But my real life mission is I want to be climbing my next mountain, whatever that is. But the one thing that I kind of drew the hard line in the sand, or UAV, a line in the cement, was that I'm not willing to sacrifice my freedom. I'm not willing to go there anymore, because that means I realized when I gained back my freedom, the dude that came out was the guy that was always kind of been buried underneath there. And it was the person I remember back in college, you know, that fun, lighthearted person, but with a professional demeanor, you know, and serving people with a higher purpose instead of just partying. But it's really nice to have that. And so I get to choose what I want to do, and not because I feel like I have to. And to me, that is it. I mean, like, I choose to work as much as I want. I choose to do these things, and I have the ability, time-wise, business-wise, financially, to do that now when I never had that before. Even though my heart never changed for the service of people. And that's what I see in our professions, is suffering. My heart breaks for, you know, my brothers and sisters out there that are doing that, and they don't have a business model. They don't have freedom. They just have a job they own. And they got to go to work every day. They're not going to pay the bills. Most are scraping by, and they have such an amazing gift to offer. But the thing is that some want it, some don't know they even exist. So even if they're the best people in the world, if no one knows you exist, you can't serve them.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to us too. We actually have a couple of personal friends who are in the situation you were just describing. But really quickly, before we move on to our next question, Jim, I have to know, who is that quote from?
That quote was from Donnie Epstein. He's the founder of a technique called network spinal analysis.
That's who it was. And
Danny Knowles is his son, who actually is the founder. Him and his wife, Rochelle, are the founders of Mile High Chiropractic Weekend. And
wow.
we just we're at the fifth one, which was Mile High 5. And honestly, just hearing people like that are, I mean, it's very rarely that you get a chance to rub shoulders with technique developers and people that have like such a, you know, massive following of, you know, just, you know, the energy at a place like that with a guy like Donnie Epstein. Even though some people are outside the lines and they're like, well, I don't know if what network spinal analysis is chiropractic, and, you know, but that's just another technique battle that people want to throw around in the profession, which actually makes it more weak. So anyways, yeah, it was Donnie Epstein who said that quote.
That's a great quote. It's spot on. So
I know that you aren't practicing right now, but you are helping people still. And would you kind of just give people like a through Z path, what's gone on since you stepped away from adjusting and where you're at today, and maybe a little bit about, at the end of that, what you could accomplish if more people knew about your cause of what you're doing today.
Yeah, so maybe I can back up a little further and just tell you what was going on. So again, being in practice for over 15 years, I was a cash-based practice, high volume, and everyone has a different definition of it. So somewhere between 600 to 850 per week on average for a very long period of time. Did corrective care too, so it wasn't compromised care, and did all that. And I had, again, very thriving practice. And something spoke to me like that internal voice. And I knew I was supposed to transition. And quite frankly, I'm going to tell you, I was scared because I would lose my identity. My identity was the damn practice. You know, my success in my numbers, that's why my emotions went up and down, blah, 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 between the numbers and the finances. And I had made the decision 3 years ago. I was at a seminar and I got clarity. And I called my bride and I said, hey, baby, I know it sounds crazy, but we're supposed to sell it all. And so she was like, what? And she was with me. I said, we're supposed to do this. I just knew what I was supposed to do. So that was in December. By the time I got back, January rolled around, fear started rising up on me. I said, listen, let's try to do this and manage the whole thing. And long story short, my life went sideways in a very crazy way, which I'm not going to go into. But again, it was somewhere in March, that came back to me and said, kind of felt very incongruent what I knew I was supposed to do. I was fighting what I was supposed to do because it meant me giving up so much of myself, what I thought I was. And again, my identity in the practice, the resources. And so anyway, long story short, I ended up selling the practice and transitioning under 3 months. How I knew it was right, I found the right doctor. I actually got more value for the practice than I thought I was going to get. And I got 100% payout too. It wasn't spread over time. I ended up selling my house in 30 days. And I picked up and literally sold everything I owned except for my cars. And we moved 3 states away into the mountains of Virginia. So I moved to a town of 5,000 where I absolutely know no one except one person. It's a friend of ours from way back. And I decided to take an entire year off as a commitment to myself to just find out how did I go so down a path when I always said, if I'm ever doing this and I fall out of love with it, I committed that I would stop. I won't ever do something like that. And I want to find out, do I still love chiropractic? Because I, quote unquote, I don't like the term burnt out. I wasn't burnt out. I was just more like confused on what it actually meant to be. And so it sounds like fun, taking a year off. I didn't work. It was probably one of the darkest places in my damn life because I lost everything I was, knew nobody, and just had to figure out what that all meant. And so in that process, that's when I disconnected from everyone I knew in chiropractic. And I think it's only right for me. I don't know if it's the right journey for everyone to sell everything and disconnect. But I did that, and I realized, hey, I still love chiropractic. I still love this, but I want to do it differently. I don't want to have to be tied to the practice, take my vacations around the holidays, have to come in on Saturdays, staying late for doctor reports, marketing weekends and screenings. I mean, like, viscerally, that still hurts saying it. And yet I want people to pay for what I'm delivering because I know I changed so many lives with what we did at our office. And yet I wasn't compensated for what I thought it should be. And I had lost so much where it put stress on my family. It put stress on my marriage. It put stress on my health. I mean, so many things I felt I was compromised. And yet I was like, what is the real mission? What is the real mission? Because if that is the mission only, right? Because I got twisted, then I don't want it. Like, to sacrifice everything else, the mission really should be my family and my health. And then the other part is what I give from my abundance. And so I always had done nutrition in my office previously. And I said, you know what? I have a vision of bringing nutrition at a high level and actually having people pay for it and building my chiropractic around it. And so long story short, I grabbed myself by my set, because it was hard to get started again. And I wondered, after doing it for so many years, can I do it again? Can I pull it off? I don't know if I really have it. So I opened up in my small town. I was trying to think, I was like, I'm just going to open my small town, 5,000, get it one room and start from there. And so I got started in another chiropractor's office. And the long story short, he asked me to move out within 2 weeks because he was selling his. So I finally get started and I got to relocate. So long story, very, very short. It sounds long already, but I had opened up here in the town we're in, 20 miles away from where I'm living, and we started. And it just started to shift and change, and we're putting systems in. So what I was sharing with you before is that we were able to develop this nutrition and weight loss business, all natural. Our patients lose between a half pound to a pound a day consistently. And I do it in 20 hours a week. I was able to generate the quote-unquote 7 figures. I generated over $1 million in under 10 months, and that's no crap. I know a lot of people on the internet saying shit, but that's real deal stuff. And it just transformed my life. And I did that, again, under 20 hours a week. So I still travel through the whole process 1 week every month, with my family somewhere, taking time off. And it just continued to grow from there. I mean, that was the lowest we've done. And we've nearly doubled, if not more already. And now I'm sharing this with the doctors because I can see how much it's liberated me. I still see the chiropractic miracles. The patients that come in want chiropractic care. So it's not, they're coming in for what they want. And so I'm giving them that without compromise. And on top of that, we're also able to get them chiropractic care they need so their nervous system's healing. So I just feel like we're working with them with things they want, fishing with better bait. And now I'm taking this and helping other doctors take this model to their clinics. So basically it's a clinic within a clinic. I have one young lady that in under 7 months, she's on pace to do somewhere between 1 to 1.5 million this year. And last month she took 2 weeks off and traveled, and I think she did like $115. That's $115,000 last month, traveling 2 weeks out of the year. And that's the freedom that we're providing. It's not just the financial freedom. It's all the above. It's like owning yourself freedom, doing, serving people, growing a business and not having to sell yourself short on time, value, or energy. And so it's much deeper than that, but that gives a good kind of, peek down the rabbit hole of what that looks like.
And Charlie, that inspires the heck out of me. I don't know what our listeners are going to feel like after they hear this episode of Chiro Hustle podcast, but from what my perspective, being the person over on the other end of the mic, I just heard you tell me that you got to the top of the mountain and you said, hey, it looks good up here, but I'm going to walk back down and see if there's something else that I can do to elevate to the next level. You figured something out, which I like to call you cracked the code for your own success. Now you're making it into a design that can help other people become financially free and teach them and integrate this to them, which really, when you find that balance between, I can tell in your voice, you found that balance between work and life. And I think so many times people don't know how to really distinguish the work from life. And like you said, the numbers scare the heck out of a chiropractor. And if it goes down, you're emotional roller coaster. And if it goes up, it's like, everybody, let's go get steaks. And
It's so true. It's so true. And that's why our identity, unfortunately, is wrapped in our practice. And we're so much more than that as people. And I do believe, in a way, I've cracked, quote unquote, the code for me, but I realize it's a similar code to others, where I feel like a lot of us are cut from the same cloth. And we want the same things, we desire the same things, but we just don't know how to get them. And sometimes I'm not saying it's for everybody, sometimes other people's success is in suppressing you. And I mean that with sincerity, though. Like, I'm not trying to, I think there's amazing organizations and groups out there, but I would say some are not. They're really designed for the latter, So for me, that was my path and journey to do that. But I tell you what, I just committed in those things not to compromise my time or it was really just my time, myself. And that's what I believe has allowed me to do these things. But the cool part is seeing other docs have the same thing. I have a buddy of mine that started with me out of faith, you know what I mean? Because I have a relationship with him. And right now, in 12 hours a week, he's able to generate more in nutrition and weight loss than he did in chiropractic. So now he's able to hire someone for chiropractic. It's freed up his income. He's spending more time, and he's still serving people chiropractically, and he's only working 12 hours in the nutrition and weight loss and generating more revenue. And so nothing's been compromised. It took him a little bit longer to get there because he had to get through some mental hurdles himself, but he's there now, and it's still under 12 months. And so how cool is that? And he wasn't failing before. He was doing pretty well. He's just doing a lot better now. And so that his next step is, hey, how do you get to that next level where his practice runs completely without him if he desires?
Well, identity is so challenging, Charlie, and even I deal with this because I feel like I do 25 things, and I meet people, and I'm like, well, is Jim the chiropractic marketer that does screening events? Is Jim the chiropractic documentary filmmaker? Is he the podcaster? Is he the next wave of success programs for chiropractors to like launch into the stratosphere of being uber successful, possibly, integrating some of the things that you do with that? I mean, is he the app developer, the programmer for creating a sales force outside of chiropractic? I mean, what do we really want, and how can we, funnel our time? And I honestly believe the more successful we get on one thing, the more that we can develop multiple things around us. And seeing that with your friend, it just encourages more people once they listen to this episode to say, okay, well, the idea that everybody else looks at me as is that. The idea that I look at myself as this, and the idea that I'm supposed to be is something else. So I think a lot of it really, when you pare it down, it goes to what is my identity? How do I live within my identity? And what do I look at for, down the line? Which I think that Luke has the next question for you, and it has something to do with the future. So I'm just gonna serve the ball up to Luke and let him throw it to you.
Sounds good.
So tell us, Charlie, where do you personally see chiropractic in the next 20 years?
That's a great question. I think as a profession, it depends how we start to present chiropractic to the public. If we continue to present it split, and we have the magic sauce individually in our hands, we're going to continue to stay fragmented. But what I see from guys like you, bringing us together, presenting a model, showing us that we just don't have to be chiropractors, at the same time not compromise chiropractic. Like, that's not the vision. If we can understand that, we will serve the masses. We will continue to change the planet the way we're designed to change it. I think we just got to get out of our own way. If that's the case, 20 years, chiropractic is the leading healthcare profession. That's how I see it.
It's kind of like what Jim Chester likes to say a lot. Chiropractors need to have unity through diversity.
Amen. And the technique we all know isn't the factor, but that's what we argue about. And it's the, what is this, or what value is that, or my God. Like, if we focus on the things we have in common first, then we can stay unified even in our diversity. And you know what? We need our PI chiropractors. We need our Gonsley chiropractors. We need our CBP chiropractors. We need them all, because guess what? It serves the public. But if we come with a unified message, that's where I think we break down. Yeah. And we also have to go where the people are at. I think we're fishing, like I was saying earlier, or maybe alluding to, is that we're talking chiropractic language to chiropractors. So of course it sounds freaking great. But when we listen to ourselves and you pull out, like what I've done is pull out, and you hear sometimes how we share, it sounds like sometimes odd. And as a person from the outside, it doesn't seem very attractive, even though it's one of the best things I think a person can do for themselves.
And I think I'm kind of funny, so I'm gonna throw out a little bit of joke. And I learned this from Liam Schubel, and he called it the dinosaur circle. And yeah. He's like, these guys that are like fighting over like this antiquated concept of who's better, what school's better, what technique's better. And then, I kind of looked at it one step further and thinking I'm even more funny is calling it the chiropractic sandbox. And the chiropractors have become these amazing practitioners and elevated state of consciousness, care about their bodies, care about humanity, and yet they can't get out of the sandbox with their ways that they behave towards each other.
True. I couldn't agree with you more. Now, again, it's interesting, 5-6 years ago, that would have offended me. So, again, I hope people are listening are not offended. Maybe just listen and not just make judgment on a statement and let it resonate or sink in. Because we know what it looks like when we fight within. We know what that is. We can look right in our rearview mirror and see what we've done. But what's the potential going forward? as a profession where we can actually serve people and we become what we are. They see us as we see ourselves.
Yeah, I think we just need to tend to the identity stronger and give it better curb appeal, make sure that we take care of weeding the garden properly to where we get good harvests from the future of chiropractic. I think that there's so many different levels, and sorry for being a little obtuse with my humor, but I think that sometimes that we need to think a little bit more in a humor stance instead of such a serious stance, and say, hey, if somebody else looks at it like that, maybe other people are looking at it like that too.
Yeah, I agree. And I love humor. I mean, I again, talking about that, even with my practice here that we're doing with nutrition, I laugh so often with people, even though some of the subject matters are sad. It's that people like levity. People, it doesn't have to be that serious. We can work hard and do our thing and move the needle forward, but it doesn't always have to be so damn serious. It can actually be somewhat light and enlightening at the same time.
And I've transitioned to another type of metaphorical language, is pushing the barometer up to raise the temperature, because that's what we really need to do with the chiropractic message. Is we need to raise the temperature up on it so people start taking it more serious, and the word doesn't have the connotations with just neck pain, back pain, and headaches, that it is something that we've cooked long enough with a great construct behind it that people are going to actually say, whoa, I don't have a headache, but I want to feel better long term. So I don't have neck pain or back pain, but dang, I hear good things about this chiropractic stuff, that they're really making people better humans.
Yeah, I agree. And that's things have to formulate under some form of tension. Tension can be positive. I mean, that's what working out is about. I know it's an overused analogy, but you need some form of tension to create some shift. Because what happens is, if it's too passive, it's too easy, we just tend to fall back into a comfort zone, and we're there.
So tell us, changing gears a little bit,
yeah.
What key marketing strategies could you not do without? Like, how do you get your message across? What's the most successful way for you to get your story out there and to get new clients?
I don't even have one. I just put as many irons in the fire in a very strategic order to have people come in. I mean, to me, like, the simplest thing, I went back to traditional marketing. I used to be like your number one screener. If there was an event, I screened at. I had 2 or 3 screening teams all the time. I can tell you now, with this new model that I'm doing, I've only done one event, and it was like 2 weeks ago. That's the only time I've ever spoken or did something. What I've done in the background is create the, your celebrity, your expert status in my town, where simple as you can spend money on print. I know for a lot of chiropractors, we're scared shitless to spend any money on marketing, right? But it's true. We're just so afraid we don't realize it. I mean, I look at financial terms as, if I handed you $1 and you handed me back 2, I'm going to try to hand you 10 next time in the hope you're going to hand me 20. Then I'm going to hand you 100. Maybe hand me 1,000. Why would I stop that exchange? So if we're not measuring our marketing, you don't even know what the exchange is happening. So I will market all day long if I'm handing you $1 and you're handing me back 2. But what about, I hand you $1 million, people go, you spend $1 million on marketing. Well, what if you handed me back $3 million? Well, you know what? That $1 million was a much better ratio than me handing you $1 and you give me back 2. So that's why I see it. So I start with, basic, if you look at almost like a funnel, not like an internet funnel, but a funnel where the largest portion is at the top, and as it weans itself down. Then we do radio. So on the radio, because people listen to drive times, there's strategies to playing that. Then we do your traditional TV. Then we do our social media, where we have giveaways and things of that nature, and communication. And then at the end, that's what the hope is to get that into a new patient phone call. Right? So that's what's called direct marketing. So how do you get a direct return on investment for your dollar spent? And once you start to figure out how those different fishing poles work, and now you have, again, a never-ending stream of new patients. Now, then once it's there, from another thing is, how do you capture them for what you're selling them? Whatever it is, whether it's chiropractic, nutrition, knee pain, back pain, whatever those things are, because they're typically calling for a reason. Like, what was the bait you used, and that's what you're trying to help them. I use bait in a way is like, in a positive way. Like if you're talking about neck pain, you're saying, how can you help their neck pain? If they have headaches, you're going to be talking about their headaches. If they're talking about menstrual cramps, you're going to say, how can what I do help you with that? And then once you have them come in from that, then you're like, oh, so how could you retarget them? Not only retarget them on an internet status, how do you retarget them for the next item that would be helpful? So if they come in for neck pain, would you maybe say, hey, I have an exercise program, or I also have a nutrition program, or I have this. What's another thing that you can put them in that would benefit them? Again, it has to be done with ethics. And then the same thing too, how do you remarket to them, retarget to them? And people who tend to consume your products will continue to spend with you. So the value of a new patient, I think everyone should know, what is the lifetime value? On average, every patient that stays with you, how much they spend in your practice. Once people realize that, you're not a new patient machine, although it's important. You're really a business person and actually serving the people who are consuming you at the highest level possible, because they're your biggest raving fans. And then what's built off of that is referrals, which we didn't even talk about, and how do you take care of your referrers and everything else. And now you have a very stable base to reach your community, to change other people's lives. And so I don't ever say one is the magic thing, because I think if you do that, you're being foolish. I just do.
And I agree with you. And I really appreciate you sharing with people out there what you have as insight for how you have branded your system and how you market it to the public that is relevant to you. And everybody, you said, like at the beginning of what that statement was, is people are scared shitless about how to market and what to get into. And, if you say print media to somebody, they're running. And if you say radio or TV, people are like, oh, it's expensive, and they run. But when you amass wealth and you have enough income to market on those platforms, it's not so far-fetched. And it's not ridiculous to put money into things that, test the market with it. Do the A/B split. See what, comes back from that. And, if it's something that is, going to work for you and you test it and it does work, then why would you ever step away from it?
Bingo. But here's the thing I would just share with that. I did all this when I was freaking broke. So think about it. If any of us took a year off of your life, now I'll tell you the other choice. I didn't feel the same. When I took that year off, I told my wife, we're not changing our lifestyle. And I didn't mean like we lived high off the hog, but I wasn't going to go down to eating ramen noodles and, turning the heat off every night so we can make it through the day. I just said to her, listen, I need a year. We're going to spend. I called it a financial divot. So when I came out of that divot, I didn't have, think about it. You're spending money and you're not earning. It's a double negative. But I did all this stuff I explained to you and built it up over time as we became more successful. But I started with those things with nearly nothing. So I think it's a mindset issue. People are so scared. See, the thing is, I recently heard this, and I can't remember where I heard this, was basically that our brain, and I get this too, and I read this somewhere else, is our brain can only focus on what we can lose. Our brain has a very difficult time seeing the potential of our future. And so since fear controls most people, if you think about this, what would you work harder to? Make 10 million or have someone stop stealing it? Someone steal 10 million from you or make 10 million. Most people would work really hard to keep people from stealing their 10 million. And that's the fear of losing something versus the joy of creating something. And so again, going back to that, that's where people, they go, oh, if it doesn't work, I spent that money, what if? And that's where I believe a lot of our profession gets paralyzed and really don't know how to market. We're like hand-to-hand combat and we're exhausted. So we have to wear all these hats in our office all the time. And it's been a joy not to have to do that. I just focus on creating relationships. I focus on getting the marketing in place, and it runs on its own and it's automated and it generates income for me while I sleep. It's a cool thing. And I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for all of that.
Well, what you've done is a very powerful message for people to hear. And I know you do have some freedom with time. And I just have one last question before we wrap up the episode of Chiro Hustle with you. What do you do in your freedom of time with, what do you listen to and what do you read, and how do you keep your act sharpened with information to be able to make the next move your best move?
That's great. With my time, well, one of it is I call it just no time. I don't have an agenda for certain parts of my day, which was odd for me because I'm such a driver. to actually do nothing is valuable to let my brain defrag. The other thing I do is I listen to one of the podcasts I've been listening to lately is Jim Rohan's. Not Jim Rohan. Oh my gosh. Crap, I can't remember his name. He's the guy from the USC fighter. He does Fear Factor.
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, thank you. My gosh, I just listened to him like an hour ago. That's the most recent one. I just read the book called The Energy Boss. Thought it was a great book, simple read, but to the point. But I'm constantly reading, and I'm constantly listening to other people who are further down the path in where I want to go. And what it does, it's not that I copy them. It actually speaks to something inside of me, and my brain will come up with a concept off of that. And then it allows me to put something in play. So more of my time is not working in the practice. More of my time is developing systems, developing concepts, and then putting them in for other doctors now and seeing how that changes their life. So that's where I've been investing my time. And also with my family too, by the way, because when I was working in Chiro, I don't know about anyone else, but I was putting in, your 60 hours a week between workshops and adjusting times and, all the stuff, the marketing that came into play. And so I enjoy just, lighting up rockets with my kids or going for a jog with them or just laying on the couch or doing projects. So there's family time, there's me time, there's physical time, and then I call it like emotional growth time is what I was just referring to by like podcasts and book reading.
Well, Charlie, all the information that you've shared on our show today has been super valuable, and we appreciate having you on. But really quickly, before we take off for the day, where can people find you? What kind of social media links or website links do you want to plug out there for people?
Well, it's a great thing. Here's something if you don't mind me plugging. In October the 13th and 14th, we're doing this amazing workshop in Orlando. And what we're doing is we're going to have it's in Celebration Orlando. There'll be a link, I guess I can send you, that will be it's an opt-in page, and it leads you to our live event page. And the live event page is an option to come. We're going to do a workshop with myself, our clinical dietitian. We have a gentleman who's our CEO who's run Fortune 500 companies. He's going to lay out our nutrition and weight loss model. And so basically there's that, and we're going to do on top of that on Saturday. So October the 13th is the workshop. It's only 3 hours. You'll get it. And on top of that, on Saturday, we're doing a Disney experience where we're actually going into the tunnels of Disney. They're going to open up the back of their house. They're going to show us their marketing, how they create the experience, even how you take the magic back to your practice. So that's something that I'm picking up the tab for. So we're only doing that for 20 doctors. If we don't have 20, I'm fine with it. I just want committed people there. And if they really are change their lives, we're going to pick up the tab on the Disney experience, the park. They're going to be able to tour the park after. We have a Disney executive that's coming that's going to speak about how they do their marketing. And I'll give a little tidbit to everyone listening. One of the coolest things they do is they actually have plants, like people like you and I dressed in regular clothes, that take pictures and videos of their employees doing amazing shit. And they send it to their executives or over those departments, like Tomorrowland or, I don't know the different lands in Disney. I can't remember them. But anyway, that's what they do. They don't catch them doing something wrong. They catch them doing something right and how they grow that culture. And these are the things we're going to be doing. So from understanding the model and showing doctors, hey, how do you have a part-time business that generates 7 figures? How do you do it for pennies on the dollar? On top of that, how do you have a Disney experience? And we're picking up the tab on the park and the Disney experience for 20 doctors. So that's the opt-in page. I'll get you the URL. But that would be really cool if we had some docs who were sincerely interested in that come. That would be a blessing to me and them.
Yeah, just send that link over to us, and we'll make sure that our listeners get that.
That's awesome. I appreciate that.
And we appreciate you being on the show with us today. And that's just about all the time we have. So thanks again for joining us. It's been an honor, Charlie.
Ditto, man. I've had a blast. You guys are awesome.
Hey, Charlie, thank you so much, and just keep Chiro hustling.
Absolutely. You do the same, brother.
All right. Take care, Charlie.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.